Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 9. This is going to be my review for episode 5 for this season, otherwise entitled The Mask of the Red Death Part 2, or otherwise known as the finale for this Red Death storyline. But of course, do not watch the episode, go away, because we're going to be talking about all the reveals, all the spoilers, everything like that. So go away if you not watch the episode. If you are continuing, let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on the episode, what you love, what you hate, overall thoughts on this storyline, would you give it out of like, I don't know, 10, we'll say 10. And yeah, let me know all that in the comment section down below. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show your support, everything like that, want to drop a like, takes 2 seconds. So last episode, of course, had Red Death finishing the cosmic treadmill, but needed Barry's speed to power it. So uses Iris as like I'm going to kill Iris if you don't do this, Barry. Now, Chillblain actually oversurges and overpowers the cosmic treadmill, destroying it, but also leaving Barry quite weak. So Red Death is going to turn to Plan B in order to get revenge on Barry, with Chillblain left behind at Red Death's base. And yeah, is he dead? Is he alive? Well, he's alive. No spoiler there. But overall, this episode I think this episode was probably one of the better paced episodes, at least for the first half. But I'm actually not too sure what I think of it as a whole, because so much happened, but I'm not too sure if it made sense. I think it did. I'm pretty sure it did, but I think this is one of those ones where I'm going to have to rewatch it and maybe rewatch part 1 as well to really give my a full view on it. And I think this is an episode where I said, I think in my stream earlier before this review, that I'd heard that there was mixed responses, while prior it seemed like people had generally the same thoughts on the episodes from the press people that got to watch the episodes early. This was the only episode where it was a bit mixed. So I was like, oh, that's a bit odd. That means it might be really good for some and just really poor for others, which I guess would be mixed. And I think this is an episode where I sort of understand what the press people were saying. I sort of disagree with the other episodes and what they've said, but this one, it was like, okay, I think this is one where people are going to be very, very mixed in it. Some people would love it, and I think some people might not like it at all. I don't even know if there'd be any middle ground for the most part. So I'm curious to see what the overall thought of this episode is, once a lot of people get to watch it. But my overall thought on it is that I thought it had some good parts, it had some bad parts. That's probably the best way to put it. But I must say, it had one of the coolest fight scenes that I can remember the show ever doing, at least visually, and different things going on. So we'll definitely highlight that when we get to it. And there was a couple of shocks there. I wasn't expecting them to throw back to something from not just 1 or 2 seasons ago, but 3 seasons ago in this episode. So there's a couple of different surprises there. I think it's just how it was all put together, which is probably where it fell apart. It was a bit messy. It just felt a bit like hodgepodge, if you know what I mean. So to kick off the episode, Central City is under this red lightning storm that we've seen over the past couple of episodes, and it's just in chaos, and it's just impacting all different areas of the city. And we do have Kramer at the Central City Police Department going to contact to get the Flash's help, but Red Death and the Rogues do arrive to put their plan into action. Now, Kramer does try to use her mimicking powers, but Red Death isn't affected. Now, at first I was like, how is this not happening? How is this not working? Obviously, it's explained later, but at first I was like, okay, they're just going to make her ridiculously overpowered for no reason, because Barry was getting easily affected by these type of powers, so why isn't Red Death? But of course, this is sort of explained later in the episode. Now, we do pick up at Star Labs pretty much right after the end of last episode, after escaping from Red Death's lair, I guess you'd call it. But the concern is what Red Death does now. So they track Red Death's location based off her emotions. So they use Cecile, who tracks her to the Central City Police Department where you'd seen her, while also letting the group know that Chillblain isn't dead. She can see him, which I thought was very coincidental at the time. I was like, okay, she can now just read both of them, and they're not ridiculously that close. But of course, that is explained later that was intentional. They were meant to know that Chillblain was there. Now, the meme team doesn't really want to risk going back into, back out there and, getting Chillblain out, but Keone does step up, which pushes the others too. Though Barry is still worried about the plan and worried about Keone and not wanting to send her out there, pretty much saying, hey, you don't have powers, and Keone sort of, acknowledged that as well. But throughout this episode, we start to see elements of Keone's powers, which is pretty interesting, but I still don't know exactly what they are. It seems like it's going to be a mixture of a lot of different things based off the 2 or 3 instances we have in this episode, but it seems like next episode, based off the trailer at least, is where that's going to get fully explained. So I guess it's a wait and see. Now, Red Death has her tech set up on the top of the Central City Police Department, which connects her to this storm, which has these various clones that are called Sentinels that are connected to Red Death's main suit, almost like a hive mind of sorts. And they will seek to control crime throughout Central City. And I wasn't too sure exactly what that meant, but they actually just like kill people that are committing crime, which I guess is a good way to stop them doing it again. Now, they will just, they're just going to, it's just sort of spread out throughout Central City, which makes sense, I guess. But Chester does reveal they're connected and sprouting up through pockets of psychic energy. So at first I was thinking, is this connected to like the Sage Force, like Psyche's, force and stuff like that? That's what I thought it was. And I was like, I was sort of confused. Like, did she take Psyche's mask or something, and then put it into her helmet? I wasn't too sure what was going on, but obviously this is explained later in the episode. Now, the Flash and the meme team do get into Red Death's lair to rescue Chillblaine, but it did seem like way too easy, and that's because obviously it was bait and they fell for it. Now, Red Death reveals her plan for this complete control of justice using these Sentinel beings and all that stuff. With Red Death revealing what Barry's greatest mistake was, which is also Red Death's greatest accomplishment, which is, nothing to do with Armageddon or anything like that, but Grodd. And we learned post-crisis, Grodd was unable to reunite with his fellow gorillas due to them not being sentient anymore, with Red Death bargaining to do so in return for an increase in telepathy, which is a completely random connection. It works in regards to the plan, but it's also incredibly random. And also, like, how does Red Death know about Crisis and specific events and that Grodd was, there for the picking? It's very coincidental because they also didn't explain exactly what's going on with her timeline. So this is where there was a bit of crack starting to show on this storyline. And I was going to say at the end of the video, but I might say now, there's been a lot of comparisons to this in the Godspeed storyline. I don't know if it was because the Sentinels clip, it was like a promo clip that came out a couple of days before the episode came out, and everyone was like, well, that's just like Godspeed. I'm not too sure. But one thing I said about the Godspeed arc, which most people agreed with, and I think most people will agree with me here, is that they took a bit too long to get to this point and they rushed it. This could have done with another episode. This could have done with one more episode focusing on the Red Death storyline and specifically Red Death's motives and how she's going to go about things. I think they've rushed it at the end. Though, as I said, I think some people will still like it a lot. So it's up to you. I don't hate it. I know there's people that are hating on it. I've seen Twitter already before I've done this review. People are hating on it completely. I just think it's a bit messy, but I think one more episode would have done this storyline a lot more justice. And that's not playing with words with justice because that's the whole Red Death thing. It's just, it would have done it more justice. But the main thing around this for Barry's sort of point of view going forward is that Grodd is the key. He has to connect to Grodd, disconnect that connection to Red Death, and that's going to be the way that they're going to be able to, well, stop Red Death, hopefully. Now, I was mentioning Kieran before, where there's some weird stuff going on with her potential powers. Now, she kisses Chillblaine, which brings him back to, like, consciousness. Now, he wasn't dead. He was just sort of knocked out. And this brings him back where it looked like there was ice, sort of like an icy breath, but he said he felt warm. So, I don't know. I don't know exactly. Like, can she sense life? Is it, like, some sort of, like, life sort of thing? I don't know. We'll have to wait. Next week's going to be the episode that explains that, so I don't really want to spend too much now, but it's a bit weird, but hopefully it gets explained. And look, I know, shocker. I cannot believe it. When it happened, I thought, this is the end of the world. I cannot believe this is happening. When this actually happened in the episode, I was like, what is the Flash doing? I cannot believe that the Flash actually did this. The show of the Flash did this. Red Death, the character of Red Death killed someone. I can't believe it. I cannot honestly believe we saw Red Death. Well, actually, technically we didn't. It was one of her Sentinels, but it was like a hive mind, so technically it was Red Death. But anyway, Red Death killed the collective total of one not even that. That might make you think it's two. One. Red Death killed one person. We saw, at least it was one. One is better than none. That's all I can say. But Red Death killed someone, I guess, through her Sentinels. So we were saying, is Red Death going to kill anyone? They took that literally by killing one. That anyone was one person. And some dude stealing a TV. I'll take it. Now moving on, Joe convinces Barry that he will be able to get back through to Grodd and help him stop, Red Death, with Barry being able to do that, with Grodd also powering up Barry with speed, sort of returning the favor, throwing back to that season 6 episode where we had like the speedster Gorilla Grodd. And it's sort of like what they did with Iris and Barry at the start of season 7 as well, which, it makes sense. There's no issues there. Now, Grodd's CGI at the beginning looked weird, but then when they did the close-ups, it looked good. So it's a bit of a, I think it's just when he's standing there like the gorilla stance and stuff, it looks a bit weird. But when they did all the close-ups and everything, I thought it looked good. So it's a bit of a 50-50. Now, the coolest moment in this episode, in my opinion, outside of Red Death finally killing one person, was the Flash versus Red Death speedster fight throughout Central City. Actually, a proper speedster fight, not just them chasing each other and then stopping and throwing lightning bolts at each other. That happened in the fight, but they were running and everything. It was a very, very cool sequence. Was the CGI amazing? No, it could have been a bit better, but there was a lot going on. Even the bits where like Red Death was like acting almost as if they were Batman, you know, like swinging, throwing batarangs. I thought it looked really, really cool. There's people online saying, hey, look, it looked ass, it looked crap. I don't know if that's just being a troll or not, because I don't know how you could watch that and not think it's cool. It could have been better, maybe a bit better CGI, but I thought it looked awesome for what it was. Now, the only issue with this final fight is Batwoman randomly coming in. Now, my issue isn't necessarily Batwoman coming in, it's the way in which it happened. I thought Batwoman, if she was in this thing, which we knew she was based off set photos, she would be in the episode earlier on. You got to remember, she's been missing. So it just felt random, very coincidental. And like I said, I predicted it. I said it in a couple of videos. I said it in a couple of streams. Batwoman was the one to defeat Red Death. She was the one to deliver the final knockout blow. Barry still can't defeat villains. I knew it was going to happen. It's very Eric Wallace to do it. So I wasn't too shocked. But at the same time, it was like I was hoping to be wrong, but it happened. They should have probably used Batwoman better. They probably should have had Batwoman in this episode, if not show up at the end of last episode. Like they find her and they use her to try and connect certain things and maybe even explain certain things as well. So they honestly, at that point, they probably shouldn't even use Batwoman, because also the lines at the end was like, oh, I have brunch with Kara and Alex. Like it felt so forced and so random. They were obviously trying to build up something where it could lead into like Iris and Ryan being friends like in Armageddon. It didn't feel natural. The writing was actually quite bad in that whole sequence. So they probably should have had Batwoman show up earlier if they wanted to do that. But it felt very, very forced. Like I hate people using the term forced too much. That's an example of it where it just didn't work. And also, Eric Wallace said they were going to tie up Batwoman, but I don't think they did. They more tied up Supergirl maybe, or connected Supergirl stuff there. But yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of that. It just felt very, forced, not natural, all that stuff. Now, this wasn't too surprising of a scene, but Joe and Jenna are leaving Central City for the country. We knew Joe was not in like a good amount of episodes after this one, so it made sense that he would leave. With Joe wanting Cecile to stay behind with Team Flash to help them for the short term, whatever that is, and visiting their new home on the weekends, which I was like, I didn't realize crime and villains took a break on the weekends, but I guess maybe they do in Central City. I don't know. But we know like Eric Wallace is going to use Cecile as like a plot tool with like her powers and stuff for stuff. We just know that's going to happen. We've seen it for the past couple of seasons. Not that big of a shock. Yeah, so we just have to deal with it, I guess. But we enjoyed the farewell party for Joe, and Iris starts to feel like lightheaded and just has to sit down, and Keone just goes, oh yeah, it's because you're pregnant. Oh, you didn't know, spoiler, but yeah, you're pregnant. Now, of course, this goes against the map book, which had her about 3 months. It was 3 months from the first episode. I don't know how long it's been. That was a 2 week later scene. So about 2 months she would have been pregnant from. About 2 months from now, roughly, or from that point. So yeah, it shows that things are changing. And that was pretty obvious as well, because even in the first episode, they said that like, what was it? Like Captain Boomerang wasn't meant to show up because Red Death had made Captain Boomerang. So Red Death has sort of changed some stuff in this timeline. So that's not too much of a surprise. One thing I'm very interested in is, this is my theory going forward, is that it would not shock me if, because it's happening earlier, it's now just not Nora. They probably just think it's Nora, but it's Nora and Bart. And I think we're going to get Barry saying the line, we're going to need more diapers. I think he's going to say that in maybe next episode, or maybe just in a few episodes down the track, depending on when they learn exactly what's going on within Iris. Might take a while till there's, like obvious twins sitting there in the womb. So we'll wait and see, but it wouldn't surprise me if that happened. So yeah, no shock there. I don't think anyone watching was like shocked by that, because we just knew it was going to happen. But I guess that was their writing, like make it shocked that it happened now. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how quickly they get through the rest of the season before Candace has to start wearing like a baby belly sort of thing. We'll have to wait and see. Now, there wasn't a cliffhanger. I'm not too shocked, but there wasn't a cliffhanger. So we just have to deal with it. That's just what it is, I guess. But yeah, overall, this episode, it was mixed. There was some good stuff. Like there was some really good stuff there as well, but there was just some poor stuff. I just remember that Chegra kissed Oh, it was an awful scene. Anyway, there was some good stuff and some really good stuff. Like that fight was awesome in my opinion. Red Death finally killing someone. Oh my God. Street Parade. Let's get it going. But then there was some poor stuff as well. And that sort of probably sums up this storyline, just mixed. A bit rushed but a bit slow at the same time, a bit all over the place. But still better than maybe some of the other storylines that Eric Wallace has done, which probably doesn't say good things about those ones that came before. But it's what it is. I didn't have much faith going into it, but I'm fine with how it played out. You know, I didn't have any expectations, so I can't really say I'm disappointed. I can maybe say I'm underwhelmed, but at the same time, I'm just going to say I'm whelmed. I thought it was an average storyline. That's not saying it's amazing. It's not saying it's crap. It's also not loving it or hating it. It's just, I'm in the middle. It's just a storyline for me, but yeah, some cool stuff there still. My only big gripe with this is that they didn't properly explain the timeline thing. It sounded like they were going to. Eric Wallace in interviews sounded like it was an important thing, and it wasn't. So that's the only issue I have really with it as a major issue, that they didn't properly explain the timeline thing, which I think could have played into the storyline much better. I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity, but it's come, it's gone. What can we do? We're just gonna have to live with it. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about this episode. You love it, you hate it. What were your thoughts on it? What were your thoughts on the entire Red Death storyline as a whole? What would you give it out of 10? Let me know down there in the comments. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.